What's going on? This is Dice Squad. I am Marshall Dice, known as Adam Campbell, and I am live here at Con on the Cob 2016 with...
I'm Jeff Carlisle. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too. How have things been going here at Con on the Cob?
Oh, things have been going great. This is one of our favorite cons to do every year. It's not a huge sales show, but it's all about family, fun, games, and camaraderie. We love it.
Awesome. So I know you're a very big artist.
I don't know how big I am, but thank you.
You're welcome. So I want to ask, how did you get started here doing art, or being an artist?
Being an artist? Well, basically, when I was about 3 years old, my mom got really tired of me drawing on walls, so she would put paper up underneath me and led me over to a table, and from that point on, I basically have been drawing ever since. So, and then about a year or so after that, the movie Star Wars came out, and that was pretty much it. I was completely obsessed with fantasy, science fiction, and drawing ever since.
Now, did you go to school for art?
I did. I was drawing all the way up through elementary school, middle school, and high school, and then I got sorry. Who may have to edit it? So I was drawing all the way from elementary school, middle school, and high school, and then I got into Columbus College of Art and Design, and I was there for 5 years, and and then after that, it was a matter of trying to find jobs that I could have, and then it came along. In 2000, ended up meeting a wonderful artist named Tony Dieter-Lisi, who did a lot of work for Planescape, Dungeons and Dragons, and then has since become like his own brand for being an author illustrator. And I brought my work with me and introduced myself, and he saw it, and he says, like, this stuff is really good. Why are you not working? And I'm like, I don't know. Tell me why I'm not working. And so he said, like, you should go to one of the big game conventions. So go to Gen Con. If you go to Gen Con, I'll be there. I'll introduce you to a couple people, and we'll see what happens. And I met Chris Perkins there, who works for Wizards of the Coast. And at the time, they had just launched their Star Wars role-playing game. And they were looking for somebody who could do Star Wars technical illustrations, somebody who could do robots and spaceships and things like that. And that's the stuff that I love to do. And that's where it all began.
And that was kind of your first major project, right?
It was. I ended up doing. They asked me if I wanted to do, if I could design freighters like the Millennium Falcon, and so they had a magazine called Star Wars Gamer Magazine, and they had an article, and they wanted 12 spaceships. So I went off and they designed 12 spaceships, and then they took that, made an article about it, and they've. Even now, 15 years later, they're still some of the most popular things that I've ever done.
Awesome. And then what came next after that?
After that, I was just going to show so these are some of the Starship designs.
Wow. Yeah. No. And then what came next after that?
After that, it was... I started designing miniatures for the Star Wars and Dungeons & Dragons miniatures game, and did that for a number of years. Did somewhere between 60 or 80 designs for both the games, and from doing that, I ended up working directly with Lucasfilm on the Star Wars webcomics that tied in with the Clone Wars, doing direct print jobs for them, books, and other things.
Now, Clone Wars, are you talking about the Genji Tartakovsky Clone Wars, or are you talking about the Clone Wars as in the Cartoon Network series?
This was the Cartoon Network series, the one that Dave Filoni oversaw. And it's the one that's the computer graphics animation one.
Gotcha. And with Star Wars miniatures, are you talking about the game with the cards and the rolling the dice?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, the card art for miniatures are actually some of our designs. So this is a Frost Giant Jarl that was done for Dungeons and Dragons, and I've done a repaint on it so that it's a little more in style with it.
I know about that. I played Dungeons and Dragons, and actually that was one of the figures in the contest for a drawing was one of those. Actually, that's really cool.
Oh, excellent! Thank you.
And what were so these are some of the other Star Wars miniatures you did?
So like here's an Obi-Wan Kenobi, Mace Windu, Lobot, because everybody loves. He's such a big action star. And so like, this is the drawing for the Mace Windu. and you have to end up having to do a front and a back that would be sent off to the sculptors in China so that they know what to design. And yeah, so I did a number of those, and I guess they really liked the designs. They actually sent off some comments to the people at Wizards of the Coast saying like, "Wow, we really like this. In 2 drawings we can tell what it's going to look like in 3D." So
Awesome. And so the big question I have for you: have you met George Lucas?
no, I have not. It's funny because Star Wars. Even when George Lucas still owned Star Wars was so much more than just what he was doing. It was all the people who were working underneath him. As as somebody who was working for licensors or licensees, I was working with people who were working with people. It wasn't working directly for him. But other projects, such as working for Felicia Day's The Guild, I was working directly with Felicia on a bunch of that stuff. So, and doing some of the other projects, I did some Doctor Who designs and had to get direct feedback from BBC, and also was working with Her Universe. So Ashley Eckstein of Clone Wars, she has this great fashion company for geek girls called heruniverse.com. And so we were designing a 50th anniversary Doctor Who t-shirt for that. So I mean, you end up working with a lot of people, and like Dave Filoni, who is supervising animator on Clone Wars and Rebels. I've known him for a number of years, and Pablo Hidalgo, who is a big person at Lucasfilm and is one of their core story group. We have talked online long before we ever met in person, so I've known him for 15, 16 years, but we have been friends and have known each other personally for 10, 12 years. So, yeah.
And what was it like working for Felicia Day?
Felicia Day is one of the best bosses I've ever had. If you go back to 2008 when Dr. Horrible Sing-Along blog came out, now I'd seen her in other things, but I had not. But really, she hadn't been a featured player in anything as much as that. And
that is Director Dice's favorite musical.
It's wonderful. I have a freeze gun, but we won't get into that. It has that crushing, heartbreaking, wonderfully poignant ending. And I said, like, okay, if I ever meet this woman, I'm telling her, please don't die again. And literally, so that came out right before San Diego Comic-Con that year. And there I was at San Diego Comic-Con walking around. And lo and behold, there she was with, I think, Tom Lenk and another guy who was, like, actually filming something as they're walking around Comic-Con. And I went, like, oh, my God, it's you. And she goes, like, oh, yes, it's you. And I said, please don't die again. She goes, like, I will try not to. And it was really funny. And she came and gave me a big hug. And then I was smart enough and had business cards on me, so I gave her a business card. And she was handing out business card / bookmarks promoting the Guild. And it's like, hey, have you ever seen my web show? I said, I have not, but I will definitely check it out. And when I got home from San Diego that year, I sat down and watched the entire first series in one sitting, felt madly in love with it. Got a hold of the email, dropped off an email message to her, and this is 2008, a MySpace message for her. I think I was just on Facebook at the time. And so sent some messages off. And about a week or so later, I got an email back from her producer, Kim Evey, who basically said, like, wow, we just looked at your website and you can really draw. We would love to have you help us. And they needed to have artwork for their first convention. And I said, like, hey, has anybody ever drawn you guys dressed up, your characters dressed up as the characters they play in the game? And then she's like, no, I don't think anybody's ever thought about that. And we only had like a week or so to put together the this convention sketch, and so she sent me works. She sent me okay. So they were looking for. I asked if anybody had ever drawn them as the characters that they were in the game, and they said no one's done that. So I said, like, well, here, look, why don't we go ahead and do that? So Felicia sent me some stock shots of them as just as the characters they play in the show, but not. And then we had some basic graphic images from the opening title sequence to let us know what the game characters look like. So I went and I took their characters and drew them in what I thought their costumes would look like. So, which was great. We had it done. There wasn't enough time to do full color, so we did a really limited color palette on this. And they took it to BlizzCon, which was their first convention, and they basically sold out of it. They had a great time with it, and they said so what can we do for you next? What's going on? They were getting ready to do their second season. So I sent them a bunch of artwork, and in the second season of the show, if you look in the background, a lot of the artwork which is up is my work. And then they needed somebody to help design their logo for their company, Knights of Good Productions at the time, which was at the end of every single episode of the Guild. And so I ended up designing that for them. Did some artwork for their next season, where they were obsessively playing the game that they play, and designed the actual box art for the game, and did this promotional poster for them. And they are actually great enough to actually pose for this one. And yeah, it worked out beautifully. And then, of course, they had their music video, Do You Want to Date My Avatar?
I know that. I love that music video.
So she was looking at the picture that I'd done and was thinking, like, we need to do something silly and promotional. So my artwork, inspired that music video as well. Then we, a few years later, when they brought out the Guild Official Companion, the limited edition, has the original artwork on the cover. And then we did, since the show was finally at the end, we did another version of it where everyone is happy because by the end of the series, everybody had basically found their arc. So yeah, Felicia is fantastic. She's wonderful. And I got to see her again at DragonCon 2009, so about a year or so after we started working together, and took us to dinner, treated us, just fantastic, was a wonderful person. And she constantly, whenever I pop up or if she sees me anything, she always introduces me. She always talks about, the contributions that I helped with that, and it's amazing.
I think actually, because I've read her autobiography, and I think she may have put you in there because with artwork and stuff like that.
I don't know if she has or not. If she did, I'm bowled over. I would love for that to be true. So I'll have to go and check that out.
Because I picked up her autobiography, and it was very. She's awesome, and her show is awesome. The Guild, and she even now with Geek and Sundry.
Geek and Sundry is a wonderful. In fact, I've got my Geek and Sundry pin on right here. Geek and Sundry is a nice, safe place for geeks to go and to experience the things that they really enjoy. And the type of shows that they make are smart and funny and inclusive. And Geek and Sundry is fantastic.
So you also talked about working for the BBC, and I also see you also work for Doctor Who.
Oh, yes. These are some of the covers that I've done for Doctor Who comics. These were exclusive variants for the Hastings stores. The very first thing that I did for Doctor Who is there's a wonderful British magazine called Tripwire, and they were having a Doctor Who special. This is 2008, and they needed a 2-page spread to talk about the history of Doctor Who. So I went and did this, and this is back when David Tennant was still the Doctor. And we wanted to have something which, I'm a big Alphonse Mucha fan, like a lot of people love that kind of Art Nouveau style. So I wanted to do something that kind of honored him and honored the history of Doctor Who, because I've been a lifelong fan. I've been a fan since 1980, since PBS started showing the Tom Baker episodes. And used to rush home from school and make sure that I was home there every afternoon so I could watch the adventures of my doctor, Tom Baker, right there. And so when they brought Doctor Who back, I thought it was amazing and fantastic and loved to do it. So this one illustration that we did for this magazine really took off, and on the internet, as all things happen, people really embraced it, and it used to pop up all over the place. So this has led to me being able to do some other things. Like I said, I did the 50th anniversary T-shirt design for Her Universe, and because I got to meet Ashley Eckstein because I was doing some illustrations for Star Wars, she was flipping through. I had a digital portfolio on an iPad, and she saw an early version of this picture, and she goes like, "Oh my God, that's amazing! We want to do Doctor Who stuff. Can you do the shirt?" And I said, yes, absolutely. So we went and we did this, and this became the 50th anniversary exclusive to New York Comic Con in 2013.
I know New York Comic Con.
Oh, you do? Excellent.
I was just there. I was just there last month.
Oh, it's a great show. Yeah, I've gone to the show a number of years, and we've set up and been in their artist alley like 2 or 3 years, and it's a wonderful show. Yeah, so did this and this image and a couple of, and the one that I did for Tripwire led to me doing some work with Titan Comics, and so it was 5 issues, a 5-issue miniseries about the Ninth Doctor, and so we decided to do 5 covers that linked together into like a single image. So, yeah, so that that just came out last year.
I still think he should have got more than one season.
Well, it would have been really nice, but it was. I think it's great that it was up to Christopher Eccleston, that he got to decide how long he was going to be the Doctor. He was able to give a great performance. It's a beloved performance. I love his Doctor. It's fantastic. And the other thing, what's a little bittersweet, is that our friend Rick, who is a longtime supporter of this convention, Rick Chantry, Columbus, Ohio police officer, who used to always cosplay as the Ninth Doctor because he looked so much like him. He just passed away in a motorcycle accident a few months ago. And so we just had a big celebration party for him and his life and his commitment to this convention last night.
It was fantastic.
Thank you. And yeah, everybody worked really hard on that. And so I took a bunch of my Doctor Who prints, and we raised a little bit of money for the Fraternal Order of Police for Rick. And yeah.
So Dungeons & Dragons,
Okay.
Star Wars, Doctor Who. What's next?
Well, I've also done some Star Trek work.
You've done Star Trek.
There was a book a few years ago called Federation: The First 150 Years, and this was a Vault edition. They had a series of Vault edition books that were done through Amazon.com, originally for Star Wars. We did the Jedi Path and the Book of Sith, and what's great is that these are in-universe. The Vault editions are in-universe artifacts. So, like, this would be a book. The Jedi Path would be a book that that teachers in the Jedi Temple would pass down to students, and it basically instructs them on the ways to be a Jedi. And then the complement to that book that they did a year or so later was called the Book of Sith, and it is a collection of different Sith journals that Darth Sidious, the Emperor, would have collected, and the idea was to create a manifesto book that in the future years of the Empire everyone would have, so they would know the whole idea of what the Sith is about, and in their minds why the Sith was the right way, why power and passion and all that. Well, the people that made that, Becker and Mayer Book Publishing, they were turning their attention to Star Trek. And so this is called Federation: The First 150 Years. And the idea is that this would be like a coffee table book that many people in the Federation would have in their home, and talks about the beginning of the Federation. And it's filled with artwork and historical documents on all this great Star Trek stuff. But they needed, the Vault edition came with extra stuff that was packaged in it. And they needed,
Ooh.
so they needed technical illustrations. And so I got to create what would be the original blueprints of the Starship Enterprise. It might be a little hard to see. This is a medical diagram of the way a Trill symbiont fits inside the host, which is something that no one has ever actually shown in Star Trek, so I had to figure out how that would work. And then the other thing that I did was, there's a very famous character in Star Trek named Zephram Cochrane, who's the man who invented warp drive. And so they designed an envelope from the IRS, asking him for back taxes. And he, like many people, and I do this sometimes, if you have an old envelope, you're sketching notes on it. So it has his sketches for the first Warp 5 engine, and it has his handwritten notes for the speech, which would become "To boldly go where no man has gone before." So, yeah, so that was that was a great honor to be able to do that. So
Very cool. So, Star Trek, Dungeons and Dragons, Doctor Who.
I've done Lord of the Rings sketch cards. I've done Indiana Jones sketch cards. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's the last 15 years of my life I've been able to do that. I worked on a bunch of smaller projects. You were asking how I got involved with Con on the Cob. Well, Andy Hopp, who's the wonderful artist who created it, was an art director on a project for Goodman Games called Dragon Mech, which was basically taking robotics, kind of anime big robots, but putting it in a fantasy setting, and it's like a steampunk. It's steampunk giant robots versus, set in the fantasy world. And he was doing the art directing the Mech Manual, and had known that I did mechanical stuff, so I ended up working with him. We became great friends and have known each other for a very long time. And when he started this show, he'd asked me for years if I could come up and do the show, and I was always seemed to be busy about this time of year. And then, oh gosh, it's been 6-7 years or so since we started coming up, and we just totally fell in love with the show. And like I say, it's a small show, but it's family and friends and fun, and yeah, we try never to miss it.
Us too. This is our second year.
Well, welcome back.
Thank you. So I guess the question, because what's next? What are you currently working on?
I'm working on some projects which are things that I'm doing by myself. I can't really talk about them at this time. We are trying to put some artwork together so we can be a part of Star Wars Celebration next year in Orlando. It'll be the 40th anniversary of Star Wars. So I'm working hard on a couple of different designs to figure out which one I want to do, and then send that off for approval. And approval pending, we will be a part of that show. And then I'm trying to get back to my roots. So going to go and get back and work again with Green Ronin Publishing on Mutants and Masterminds, which I was an artist on that book for a long time. And beyond that, there are a couple of things that I would love to talk about, but I just can't.
Not a problem.
I have signed paperwork, so I can't talk about it.
Timothy Zahn said the same thing for us, so we understand about confidentiality.
Oh, yeah, and hey, Thrawn is back. We're very happy about that.
We are. We interviewed him before Thrawn, so it was like really cool. It was. To
watch that, yeah, come out, yeah. So, and Rogue One, of course, is coming out. That's going to be a really exciting time if you're a Star Wars fan, because this is the first non-Skywalker story. The first one that isn't tied directly to, the main core stories, even though this film is set immediately before the original Star Wars film.
Well, I was going to say, there is a Skywalker in it, although his name is Vader.
Yes, that's true. But it's not part of the saga, and so it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a different type of story. It's going to tell a different type of story. And if they do right what everyone knows they're going to do right, it's going to be really exciting. It's going to be the first real Star Wars war movie. So you think of like the great war movies of the past, like The Dirty Dozen, or I don't want to say Saving Private Ryan. That's a little hardcore, but the idea of normal people. There aren't, in main featured roles, there aren't going to be Jedi and Sith and everything like that. It's more about the grunts. It's more about the average people trying to live in that world. And I'm terribly excited. If it works or if it doesn't work, I'm just excited that they're trying new things with it.
Absolutely.
As we go into the 40th anniversary, as we're going into the next 40 years of Star Wars, it's going to be really interesting to see where it goes.
So, for any artists out there that have a need or a want to try to get out there and draw and don't know how to get started, any advice for our viewers out there?
Absolutely. Don't quit. It's really that simple. Drawing itself is a technical skill. If you give yourself enough time, you can learn to use your hand to draw what you see. People discover that they have talent, and they get encouragement from other people to keep them, doing what they do. But there are a lot of people out there who have the skill, who have the ability, who basically they see what they're doing and they see what other people are doing, and they don't think that they draw as well as other people, or they don't think that they paint as well as other people. And that might be true for now. But that's because the thing is their sense of style, their sense of taste is actually a much higher level than their technical skill. The only way their technical skill is going to get up close to what their sense of style and taste is going to be is if they keep doing it. It's like anything. It's like writing. It's like any kind of athletic skill. If you don't do it every day, all the time, and don't stop, it's never going to raise up. The irony, of course, is that when you raise your level up to where your taste is, by that time your taste has risen up even higher, and you find that you are never going to be satisfied with what you do. That's actually a good thing, because if you're not satisfied with the work that you're doing, you're going to constantly try to improve. You're going to constantly try to do better. And that's the only way you do. Don't stop. Don't listen to people who tell you you can't draw or you can't paint, you can't do anything. You just keep doing it. The more that you do it, the better you're going to do it. The better you do it, the more people are going to need and want your skills. It's very simple.
True enough. So, where can people find where can people find you on social media?
Oh, okay. Well, of course, there's my website, which is woefully undermanaged. I'm not updating it as much as I should, and I'm constantly berating myself. But it's www.jeffcarlisle.com, and then I'm on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And it's all under Jeff Carlisle Art, one word. So you do like facebook.com/ or twitter.com/ Instagram, Jeff Carlisle Art. So jeffcarlisle.com for the webpage, Jeff Carlisle Art for all social media.
And we'll have links below to check that out. I got to thank you so much for being on the show. And for continuing our coverage here at Con on the Cob 2016, this is Marshall Dice, also known as Adam Campbell, with
Jeff Carlisle.
And we'll see you guys later.